Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 98 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, my friend. Very good. Right, let's dive straight into part one. Of course, there was a lot to review from last week and there's not too much to preview, so we're going to get with that in due course. The first thing I'd like to say, this is episode 98, as I just said. You know, that actually means that the BoxHard Podcast started 100 weeks ago this week. There was only a small occasion where we just took 2 weeks off. We took 2 weeks off in November of 2016. Aside from that, we've literally banged out 98 shows after this show this week in 100 weeks. So it's a big week for us here. So moving over now to the reviewing, as I said, let's start in the Buffalo Run Casino in Miami, Oklahoma, USA. One fight to mention, it went under the radar a little bit. Torino Johnson, 20-1, took on Sergey Derevianchenko, who was 10-0. A lot of people kind of forgot this fight was happening. You know, the undercard wasn't too great, and there was a lot on, of course, a lot of distractions on last week. So it was a contest at middleweight. Now, Torino Johnson was down in round 12, the final round, and that was it. He was TKO'd in round 12. I do not know what the scorecards were like. I don't know if they were, if it was a close fight or not, but Sergey Derevianchenko went over to the US and got a win. He was on the road there getting that victory, so he's now 11-0, a perfect record there. And Torino Johnson, no real shame in losing to Derevianchenko, but he racks up another loss here. His record now 20-2. Moving over now to the Rainbow Towers Conference Centre in Salisbury, Zimbabwe. One fight to mention over there. Former opponent of Tony Bellew, Ilunga Makabu. His record 20-2. He took on Musa Ajibu, 28-9 with 5 draws. Again, we are the only podcast to have mentioned this fight. I'm sure of it. Ilunga Makabu got the knockout in round 4. It was scheduled for 8 rounds. He didn't need those extra 4 rounds. He got him out of there in 4 rounds. All the very best to him moving forward. Also, moving over now to, I think we should start really with the StubHub Center card in Carson, California. Let's start with the undercard over here. I think we're going to start with the Ray Vargas and Ronnie Rios fight. Ray Vargas, obviously, the British fans are familiar with him. He came over here and beat Gavin McDonnell. We was all behind Gavin McDonnell that night, but it wasn't to be his big night. Ray Vargas, 29-0, stepped in here against Ronnie Rios, 28-1. Ronnie Rios, he came to fight. Ray Vargas, obviously being the champion as well, I should say, put his WBC World Super Bantamweight title on the line. Ray Vargas, we all know he's a southpaw banger, and we weren't too sure if he was going to be able to stop somebody of the caliber of Ronnie Rios. Ronnie Rios, obviously quite seasoned. But no, his power didn't really show throughout the fight, Ray Vargas. He just looks pretty big in there, he's very big for the weight, in my opinion. And he managed to win a unanimous decision over 12 rounds, so he now proceeds to 30-0, a beautiful record there for the Mexican, and he retains his WBC World Super Bantamweight title. Ronnie Rios now 28 wins inside 30 fights, but it's 28-2 for him. And now the main event over there, Miguel Cotto, 40-5, returning to the ring after almost 2 years absence. He took on Yoshishiro Kamagai, whose record was 27-3 with 2 draws. It was for the vacant WBO World Super Welterweight title. It was what it was. Kamagai is quite limited, but he's tough as old boots. Obviously, you know, the Japanese fighter took on Robert Guerrero, gave him a really good fight despite losing, and he can bang as well. You know, it was a bit of a dangerous fight for me when when it got announced. I kind of thought, yeah, it's a good opponent, and then the closer it got to fight night, the more I kind of thought to myself, do you know what? This could be some bad matchmaking here. Kamagai, he hasn't been super active lately. I said it on last week's show that he has been, but when I actually checked it out, he hasn't been that active, but he hasn't been obviously as inactive as Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto, again, we all know he's seen better days, and this could have been a banana skin here. It really could have. Kamagai came out in the first round. I think he did pretty well early doors. But in the grand scheme of things, throughout the whole 12 rounds, you probably got to say he probably got maybe 1 or 2 rounds best. I don't think you could give him 3. Miguel Cotto actually really impressed me. As I said, you know, we all know he's seen better days, but he was able to fight off the ropes really, really well. He was the much smaller man physically. Kamagai's power didn't really tell in this fight. He wasn't able to land clean on Cotto. I actually think that, Cotto's defense was really, really good. His movement was good. His footwork was good. He was spinning Kamagai at times. And, most of the fight he was on the back foot, and Kamagai was just walking forward, relentless pressure all the time from him. And I think that, I know that Kamagai is no spring chicken. He's mid-30s or something like that. He's not as old as Miguel Cotto, obviously, but there's a few years between them. But Cotto taking on a guy like that, who's a lot fresher in terms of professional experience, it could have been one of those fights where if he didn't have it in his gas tank to go 12, he could have really come unstuck in the later rounds, especially with Kamagai, who not only comes forward and puts on the pressure, but he can bang as well. But like I say, I was really impressed with Cotto. His gas tank was brilliant. His defensive, elusiveness was very good. His movement was very good with his feet, with his head. Everything was just on point. And like I say, some of the shots he was winging in, he was really, really hitting him. And he looked to be the puncher out of the two, to be honest. A really, really, really good performance there from Miguel Cotto. Body shots, he was just mixing it up from head to body. He just looked really, really good. A really impressive performance for my taking anyway there with Miguel Cotto. His record now 41-5. He becomes the new WBO World Super Welterweight Champion. Yoshishiro Kamagai, despite having all that bravery, just didn't have the tools to win the fight. It wasn't even close for me, but very much credit to him. The only thing I will say is every time he got hit with a good shot, he made it clear he was hit with a good shot. He'd kind of like take a step back, or his head would swing backwards and he'd kind of bring it back round, like centrally, as you would do. If your head gets knocked back, it obviously comes back to its original position. He was bringing his head back very slowly to indicate that he really took a big shot, and Cotto didn't really double up on the shot in those circumstances. But yeah, Kamagai, a very tough guy. His record now 27-4 with 2 draws. As I said, Miguel Cotto, the new champion of the world. We did say on last week's show that he said he's going to be retiring at the end of the year, and he did say in the ring after the fight that he wants one more fight. He believes he just should have one more fight before he decides to hang him up and spend time with his family. And he did hint that, well, he didn't actually hint it, but there's been some hinting from his trainer Freddie Roach, then they're basically saying that they would like to see Cotto in there with the winner of Triple G Canelo. That may be a step too far, but listen, it was a really, really good performance. And fighting those guys, even if he's not at the right point of his career to take him on and get a win, he will still earn some nice money in there, providing he doesn't, take too much of a beating, which in his last fight, I'm sure his corner won't let that happen. They'll be pretty happy to throw the towel in if it is going one way, and he'll pick up another paycheck there to sail off into the sunset with, and I can't really blame him. He's been a really good fighter for years and years. I think that was his 25th world title fight, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's been fighting in world title fights pretty much since 2004. So that is staggering. 13 years of entertainment from him. Right, now moving over to the T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada, the final card to mention from last weekend. Well, let's start with the undercard. Firstly, we're gonna mention here Savannah Marshall made her debut. She got in there with Sydney LeBlanc. She picked up a unanimous decision win over 4 3-minute rounds. We thought it was going to be 4 2-minute rounds, but it was extended to 3 minutes. That's always good to see the women fight for as long as the men there. So yeah, good start to her pro career there, Savannah Marshall. Also on the undercard, Kevin Newman II. His record 7-0 going in with 1 draw. He took on Mark Anthony Hernandez. And it was an upset here for Mayweather's fighter. Kevin Newman took the loss. It was a unanimous decision loss over 6 rounds. Kevin Newman now 7-1 with 1 draw. Mark Anthony Hernandez now 10-1. He pulls off the upset there on the home fighters card. So very nice stuff there from Mr. Hernandez. Also on that bill, Andrew Tabiti 14-0 with 12 knockouts took on Steve USS Cunningham. We all know that Steve Cunningham is a 2-time former cruiserweight world champion. This fight was down at cruiserweight, which he really should be fighting there. I don't think the little stint he had at heavyweight was probably in his best interest, but the money was good. Can't blame him for that. We all know he's at the tail end of his career now. We had him on our show last week, and I did ask him the question. I said, listen, Steve, what happens if you lose this fight? Will you consider retirement? I haven't seen anything from him since then, and it was really hard for me to watch it because, he's a really, really nice guy, Steve, as I'm sure our listeners know. But Tabiti pretty much won. I think some of the judges maybe even gave it a shutout, if I can remember correctly. But, it wasn't really a close fight. Steve Cunningham was losing in every area. Tabiti was just too strong, too fresh as well. And one thing I will say, Steve Cunningham was always on the front foot trying to kind of press the action, and Tabiti was, for the most part, on the back foot, boxing. I don't want to say running, but I know Steve Cunningham kept kind of shouting in the ring, saying stand and fight, he's running, stuff like that. And, at the end of the day, Steve Cunningham, for me, I don't think he's got the legs anymore to keep the pressure on somebody as fresh as Tabiti. So Tabiti gets a really impressive name for his record there. A not super impressive win. It was a bit of a boring fight, to be honest. As I said, it was, just boxing off the back foot. No, exciting moments, even little bursts of it at all, throughout the duration of the fight. Andrew Tabiti retains his NABF Cruiserweight title, and he picks up the USBA Cruiserweight title as well. A unanimous decision over 10 rounds for Tabiti. His record now 15-0, a perfect one. And Steve Cunningham now 29 wins, 9 losses, and 1 draw. Also on the bill, Yordenis Ugas, 19-3, took on Thomas Delorme. If I'm not mistaken, Ugas only had 9 days to prepare for this fight, but he was in good shape anyway. I actually looked at the odds on this fight, and I thought, looking at Delorme's record, he's took on the better names professionally. Ugas hasn't really took on those names, but we know he's a really good fighter. As I said, his record 19-3, Delorme 24-2. Now, one of Delorme's losses, I think, was a technical decision, and I'm not looking at his record now, I'm just trying to go by memory. I think he lost a technical decision, and then he got stopped, if I'm not mistaken, by Terence Crawford in a fight that was very close up until the stoppage. So looking at those 2 losses, they're not really big, humiliating losses, and like I say, he's mixed it with the better guys. So I thought, looking at it, Ugas had lost 3 fights. He'd never been stopped though. Delorme was moving up in weight, and he's not really a huge puncher. So I thought, for me, he could probably win over the stretch of the fight. And I actually looked at the odds for Delorme to win on points. It was 5-1. So I included it in my accumulator, which went horribly wrong, and I'll get to that a bit later. So I said Delorme probably win on points. Now, I had no idea that he was just recently working as an Uber driver in the United States. Let's talk about the fight, though. Delorme was down twice in round 2. A really, really bad start for him. He hasn't got the best chin in the world, and Ugas surprised me with the power as well of him. Remember, Ugas was supposed to be Sean Porter, but somebody in Sean Porter's family passed away. Sean Porter was actually there in attendance, but he wasn't in the ring. Delorme was down twice in round 2. Ugas was down in round 7, though. Delorme lost a point in round 6 for low blows and also in round 10 for low blows. Both of those points taken off there in round 6 and 10. Looking at the replays, it didn't even look like it was a low shot. The referee was quite poor. It was Vic Drakulic, who I'm not a big fan of. Just to refresh your memory, he's the man that made the big confusion of the whole Rigondo's last fight when he was out the ring for about 15 minutes getting advice from Robert Byrd, who of course was the referee in the big fight of this card, McGregor Mayweather, which we'll get onto just a moment. So yeah, Ugas was impressive, but in the latter part of the fight he faded and Delorme came on strong. And you know, if it wasn't for those 2-point deductions, which shouldn't have really been point deductions because the referee was terrible, and you know, every single time something just even slightly happened that Ugas could moan about, he was moaning to Vic Drakulic, and I think in some ways he was probably influencing his decision, his decisions to give Delorme a telling off. And throughout the whole fight he was doing that, and like I say, after 10 rounds, unanimous decision in favour of Ugas. He got the win, but if those 2-point deductions hadn't came off, then Delorme would have got the win. So I was really annoyed because that messed up my accumulator straight away. That was the first fight that messed it all up. And yeah, that's it for that one. Moving over now to the Gervonta Davis versus Francisco Fonseca fight. We all know that Gervonta Davis was stripped of his title after missing weight. If I'm not mistaken, he came in 2 pounds over the limit, which is really, you know, for a young fighter, especially the youngest world champion at the moment of all the current boxers, or at the moment of the weigh-in anyway, until he lost his title. Of course, he's no longer a world champion. So he lost his title. It was only on the line for Francisco Fonseca. If he won, he'd become the champion. If Gervonta Davis won, he wouldn't get his title, but he'd still be unbeaten, of course. Yeah, so, you know, Gervonta Davis, for me, I thought he was going to win by knockout within about 3 or 4 rounds. It ended up going 8 rounds. Ayaz, what did you make of this fight? We all know that Gervonta Davis is a really good fighter. We all know that he can bang. Francisco Fonseca was bringing in an impressive record of 19-0 with 1 draw. Both men were undefeated. We didn't know if Fonseca had a great chin or not. He turned out to have a good chin, but to be completely honest, Gervonta Davis did not look like the same Gervonta Davis we're used to seeing.
Oh yeah, you're definitely right about that. Now I can explain something to you, okay? Gervonta Davis, like at the start, like it was like he was mocking him, like putting his hands behind his back. Like when you saw the Pedraza fight, my word! When I watched the Pedraza fight, I remember watching this fight, this fight, yeah. And I compared to the Pedraza fight, I was like, when he came up Pedraza, he's like he's a new boxer. Like the way he beat Pedraza, I was like, you saw Stephen Smith fight Pedraza. No one stopped him, and Gervonta Davis stopped him. He went to fight Liam Walsh, and the way he beat up Liam Walsh is another one. And this person, like, it's like Gervonta Davis is like, he's reminding me of another character like Adrian Broner, where they like to mess about. Like, for example, Gervonta Davis, he failed to make weight. In this fight, he was putting hands behind his back, mocking him. It's like Gervonta Davis didn't want to be there. Okay, Gervonta Davis hit him at the back of the neck. He dropped down to the floor. That was counted as a knockout. The reason why it was counted as a knockout because that fight, he was complaining to the ref saying that, oh yeah, he got hit at the back of the neck, and the ref counted it. In my opinion, the way Gervonta Davis fought in that fight, he was lazy. It's like he didn't really want to fight, and he even apologized. He goes, if you see after the fight, he was getting booed because of his performance, hands behind his back. What he reminded him that fight reminded him of Adrian Broner.
Yeah, I think Gervonta Davis, he seemed a little bit, as you said, a little bit lazy. I think sometimes he is a little bit like that. I think that can be a little bit to do with the showmanship. I think, you know, some people would say that Chris Eubank Jr. is lazy. Some people would definitely say that that Adrian Broner is lazy. I think it's just to do with their style of being a bit flashy. But what I will say is something certainly was up with Gervonta. He came on Twitter, I think, the day after the fight and said that something happened in the build-up. Me and my team know about it, but that's about it, and I still got the win. That's all that matters. And, you know, he's right. He's right. You know, he did get the win, but the thing that does matter is the point that he lost his world title here. But on the flip side of that, our listeners will know, and they should like Billy Dibb. Billy Dibb's been on our show a few times. You know, a really, really nice guy from Australia. Just linked up with Robert Garcia's you know, his training team, obviously, Robert Garcia himself, Mikey Garcia, the rest of them. And he is now in line to fight for that vacant title because Fonseca didn't win, so of course the title remains vacant. So I'm happy for him. It's created a very winnable opportunity with him, because I think some people, if you was going to say Billy Dib against Gervonta Davis, who's going to win that fight, then most people would probably mark Gervonta Davis as the favourite. So I'm happy about this situation for Billy Dib. But looking back at Gervonta Davis, I thought that because he missed the weight by 2 pounds, I actually thought that he's going to probably be moving up to lightweight. But he made it clear that no, he doesn't want to move up to lightweight. He wants to try and win his title back. I think he's looking at some other fights in that division. So some people were saying, oh, he's done this to try and avoid Lomachenko. That is absolutely nonsense. It really, really is. You know, when you're a champion, you don't necessarily have to unify to get, you know, the recognition. You are already a world champion, a proper world champion, like he was up until the weigh-in last Friday. And you know, for me, he's a really good fighter. But I mean, let's be honest, he probably didn't lose a round, so let's not be too harsh. But you know, some of the distasteful stuff, and also what I will say, I'm not sure, because I think they probably called it a little bit wrong on the commentary, but when Fonseca was knocked down with that punch, as you mentioned, Ayaz, the punch that kind of came around the back of the head / neck area, when he was down on the floor, firstly, I think he did make a meal of it. I don't think he really wanted to get back up. I think he knew that the fight was pretty one-sided, and that was his escape route, if you like. But I think that Gervonta Davis, right after that, went down on his knees right next to him, and I don't know, because the commentary team was saying, "Oh, look at him, he's having a little prayer there." And maybe if stuff did happen in the build-up that we don't know about, then maybe it was a prayer. But he seemed to do it in the same area, the same spot, and all the same kind of bodily actions that Fonseca was bearing at that moment. So for me, it kind of looked like he was taking the mickey a little bit, but I suppose we're not going to know. I've reached out to Gervonta's team about getting him back on the show. I remember we got him on a few days before his world title fight in January when he became the champion, in that terrific performance that he put in against Pedraza, the champion at the time. And he's a bit busy at the moment with personal issues, so hopefully we'll get Gervonta on sometime soon, but it won't be this week. So yeah, leaving that fight alone there, Gervonta Davis now 19-0, Francisco Fonseca 19-1 with one draw. The other fight we got to mention, the final fight to mention of the undercard, Nathan Cleverly put his WBA World Light Heavyweight title on the line against Badou Jack. Nathan Cleverly 30-3, Badou Jack 21-1 with 2 draws. This was a fight where I actually said that Nathan Cleverly was going to probably lose on points. I think most people believed that the favoured outcome and the favoured method of victory for both fighters was a Badou Jack points win. So here are my predictions. As I've said there, I actually picked Gervonta Davis to win inside 4 rounds. I got that wrong. Most people believed that would happen. I also thought that Delorme was going to win a decision, but I didn't get that because Vic Drakulic messed that one up. And I picked Badou Jack to win on points. Now, it was a shocking performance from Nathan Cleverly. I think he'll admit that himself. He came out in the first round. He just seemed to be very slow. He seemed to not be putting any power into his punches. I just don't know. I think he looked a bit shot, in all honesty. Badou Jack as well, moving up to light heavyweight. There was a lot of questions to be answered about that whole move for him, and he answered them with a bang. For me, he pretty much won every round of the 4 prior rounds until he got into that 5th round and TKO'd Nathan Cleverly. Cleverly, again, he's got the heart of a lion. He's very, very brave. He's got that kind of warrior reputation as well for that fight with Fonfara and, a few others. One of the Bellew fights was a good one. That guy has got a seriously big heart, and he's the kind of guy that needs to be pulled out by the referee, by his corner. He will carry on fighting. I give him a lot of credit. He's a tough guy, Nathan Cleverly, big balls, but it was just one-sided. He was hard to watch at times, and Badou Jack, that finish that he put in there on Cleverly, and Cleverly landed some good punches, don't get me wrong, but he was being outworked, he was being outmanned, and he was just being outfought in every area. Badou Jack would hit him with thunderous body shots. He'd come upstairs, rock his head back with jabs, with power punches, the whole lot. Badou Jack looked phenomenal in there, and that is the simple best way to rip a title away from a current world champion, to go and do it in style, to win every round and then stop them before the halfway point. Really, really impressive performance from Badou Jack. To be honest, I got to be honest, Ayaz, I did not believe, in my honest opinion, that he had it in him to win a fight that conclusively against somebody of the caliber of Nathan Cleverly. What did you make of it?
Badou Jack, wow. I'm telling you, since that loss he's had, he's improved as a boxer. Badou Jack, since he's beaten Anthony Terrell, he's gone on to fight George Gross, beat George Gross. He went on to fight Bute, got a draw against Bute.
One that he should have won as well. He should have won that Bute fight, of course.
Yes, so he should have won against the Bute fight. In my opinion, I reckon he nicked it against DeGale.
Ooh.
Right? Now, he's moved up, and become a two-weight world champion. You can see, it's like Cleverly didn't want to be in there. Badou Jack was throwing some good punches, hurting him. You can tell from the start. Like, the punches that Badou was doing, Badou was going for the body and the head. And obviously, like, you see it when Nathan Cleverly's nose started bleeding as well. Badou Jack, in my opinion, has improved. And look, I'll tell you one thing now. Now that he's become the WBA light heavyweight champion, in that division, you got, in my opinion, pound for pound number one, Andre Ward. You got Kovalev. You got Jack. You got Adonis Stevenson. I reckon Jack's future fight is going to be Adonis Stevenson versus Badou Jack. Nathan Cleverly, as for him, I mean, in the fight, to be honest, it's like he didn't want to be in there. It's like he wanted to go to later rounds, but he didn't do nothing in the early rounds. That's why he got beaten badly.
Yeah, and it was badly. And as you mentioned there, he's looking at unifying straight away. If he means what he says, and he called out Adonis Stevenson there, he didn't mention Andre Ward's name, I don't think. Did he mention Andre Ward at all, actually, Ayaz? Did he say Ward?
No, just Adonis Stevenson.
That's fine with me. That is actually fine with me, because Adonis Stevenson needs to fight a live body. And Badou Jack moving up in weight, he's had the one fight against Cleverly there who was very under-impressive. And, this might be a fight where Adonis Stevenson may believe that he can probably catch Jack before he really, really settles into that weight. So this might be a fight that gets his attention. He may say, do you know what, I'll have a piece of that. People have stopped, hating on me for taking easy fights and easy defences. And not only that, but it will be a unification fight as well. So he may be tempted to get involved in that fight. And if he does, it is a brilliant, brilliant fight. I really, really like the sound of that fight. I believe, and I think that you'll probably agree with me, Ayaz, that's a very, very hard fight to call. Because remember, Badou Jack, he's been stopped in the first round, not by a journeyman, by a decent-ish fighter, but someone who's nowhere near world level. And he was stopped in the first round. And he hasn't really looked vulnerable aside from that one night. But everybody, and I mean everybody, in that whole light heavyweight division, having a great chin or not, if you get caught flush by Adonis Stevenson's big left hand, his big power punch that we saw him clean out many fighters with, including the shocking knockout against Chad Dawson those years ago, if he catches you with that left hand, you are gone. So for me, it's a very, very, very hard fight to call. It's a very, very hard fight to call. Can you call a winner, or do you think it's a bit too close to try and call a winner out of that fight?
I mean, Adonis Stevens got power, but Jack's improving day by day. So I'm not quite sure. If it came towards fight time, then I'll decide. I'll see who can win, but we'll see in the future.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying there. He's getting on in age as well. Adonis Stevenson, obviously, in his late 30s now. So we're not too sure what he's got left, or what he's got, how many more years or fights left he's got in the game at that top level. We'll have to see. But no, I like the sound of Badou Jack there. He seems like he wants to get on with the big fights, the big money fights. And as they said, would you go to Canada for that fight? He said, hell yeah, I'll fight him anywhere. So that's the kind of attitude we like at the top level. And hopefully Badou Jack is a man that can get those fights with the money team behind him, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in the United States, anywhere else. We definitely welcome that fight. That's a brilliant fight. Now the main event, and I've got a lot to say about this fight. fight, Ayaz. Now, we all have got to hold our hands up. We all said this is a circus of a fight. This is just simply a cash grab for Floyd Mayweather. We said we can't really blame Conor McGregor, though. He's making all that money on his debut fight. Nobody in history is ever going to make that much money in their debut ever again. Unless we're talking like thousands of years down the line, where 100 million is literally pocket money. Maybe someone will do it. But I tell you what, we all laughed. We all said Conor McGregor's not got a chance. I saw, I think somebody mentioned it to me that there was one betting shop that were taking bets, and you could actually bet on if Conor McGregor can actually win a single round. And someone said it to me, and I said, do you know what? I wouldn't even want to put money on that, because winning one round literally means winning the better of 3 minutes against Floyd Mayweather, the self-proclaimed TBE. But we've got to hold our hands up. He is one of the best ever. Not necessarily the best ever, but he's certainly in in the top 10 or in the top 20. And there's been thousands and thousands of fighters, some great fighters along those years as well. So he's definitely up there. He's one of the best. He is the best of this era. That's undoubted. And Conor McGregor, he's only had a few amateur boxing fights, if I'm not mistaken. This was his debut, the first time he'd be in a ring with anybody anywhere near the caliber of world level. Anyway, Paulie Malignaggi's way past it. We all saw his sparring with Chris Van Heerden. He's not world level at all. This was a humongous step to make. Now, I've got to be honest, Ayaz, I was quite worried after 3 rounds, because I gave the first 3 rounds to Conor McGregor. Some people gave him the first 2, but for me, I believe he won the first 3. But very quickly, we saw that he ran out of gas against Floyd. Floyd was able to fight very smart. It seemed to me that every time they went for the 1 minute break in between rounds, Conor McGregor would come running out of the round, running out of his corner for the next round. And he seemed to fight really well for, let's say, maybe the first 35, 45 seconds, something like that. And then he'd gas. And in the second part of the round especially, Floyd would really capitalise on McGregor's fatigue, and he would kind of, very, very decisively win the round. So it was very clever tactics from Floyd to basically let McGregor have his way for the first minute or so of the round, and then come on and win the next 2 minutes very easily without having to do much. Now, what I will say is, and look, we're all boxing fans here. We're all biased. We all, in our heart of hearts, we like McGregor a little bit. Maybe we don't even like him. I'm just talking generally for the whole of the boxing world. But we just simply could not let a man from the MMA, UFC side of the combat, sports game come into a boxing ring and beat one of the best ever. We were not prepared to accept that. That is not acceptable. We cannot let that happen. It would be embarrassing for boxing. It would kill boxing. Okay? So we could not let that happen. So we all wanted Floyd to win. But those people out there that are saying, Floyd, he let Conor McGregor win a few of those early rounds, just to make it competitive. That is complete nonsense. Listen, and those other people that are saying, Floyd took those 3 rounds off just to figure him out. Listen, Floyd did not go into that ring in the first few rounds and say, do you know what, I'm going to eat a few jabs. I'm going to let him hit me with a good left uppercut in the first round and react badly to it. He got caught with some body shots. Conor McGregor, what I will say, walked to the ring. He looked a little bit worried. He looked a little bit, a little bit uncomfortable is probably the best word. When he walked to that ring and some of the stuff at the press conference the day before, the weigh-in or whatever, he seemed to be a little bit subdued. He seemed to be a little bit like, he's come to realization, damn, this is really happening now. It was like he hit reality. And when he got in that ring, in that first round, I thought that he looked a bit nervy. And then after he landed a couple of good shots on Floyd, especially that uppercut, that seemed to give him the confidence. And from there, he just ran with it. And he was really, really impressive. So anybody that's sitting here on any other podcast, any boxing fan, whatever, who's going to tell me, who's actually going to sit there and say to me, yeah, Floyd wanted it to look competitive. Why? Floyd's not having another fight. Floyd doesn't give a damn if Conor McGregor looks competitive, so he's got a career in boxing. If Floyd would have absolutely beaten the crap out of him from round 1 all the way to the stoppage later in the fight, then we'd probably never want to see Conor McGregor in the ring again. And we all thought that was going to happen. You know, I've got to hold my hands up. I thought that Conor McGregor didn't have a chance of even winning a single round here. But I was so wrong. Like I said, I gave him 3 of the first 3 rounds, and then I actually gave Conor McGregor a round in the later part of the fight, and I haven't rewatched the fight, but at the time it was either the 7th round or the 8th round, I think, where he seemed to get a bit of a second win, but not for too long. You know, it was a little bit bad, that, or a little bit unprofessional. I don't know what you want to call it. We all know that Conor McGregor didn't actually hire a proper boxing trainer for this fight, and you know, he done things his own way, and he believed that he could do them his own way. And ultimately, he's 29 years old. He's gassing that quickly. He's not used to the pace or the the style of how boxing fights work, especially against somebody like Floyd. And Floyd is a 40-year-old man who is in tremendous condition. Some people say unnaturally, some people say naturally. We'll leave that for other people to debate. But what I will say is, Floyd's stamina was brilliant, but Floyd lost some touches for me. He's been out the ring for 2 years. You can't blame him. But for me, it didn't look like the same old Floyd. He really didn't. I was kind of thinking to myself, imagine if Canelo was in this ring with him tonight, it would be quite ugly. Canelo would have probably beaten the hell out of Floyd, to be honest. But I'm not knocking Floyd. I'm just saying he got the win. He got the stoppage that we've been waiting for almost 10 years or whatever. The first or the last proper stoppage was against Ricky Hatton. We're not including that Victor Ortiz rubbish. But for me, we've got to give Conor McGregor his dues. He showed the balls. He showed the courage to cross over and come into the boxing ring. The only thing is, he believed he could beat the best at their game. Now, MMA fans, and I feel for them as well, because we would have done the same thing. If Floyd decided to go into the octagon, we'd have all said, no, Floyd's going to win, Floyd's going to win. We would have backed our man. That's what you do. And they simply backed their man. MMA fans backed their man. They said, no, Conor McGregor's going to do it. Look what he did to Jose Aldo in the octagon. It doesn't really make a difference. They backed their man. And now they sound a little bit bitter when they say, oh, well, if it would have happened in an octagon, then, he wouldn't even last 30 seconds. I agree with that, though. That is completely true. There's no competition. If it goes to in the cage, McGregor lasted almost 30 minutes with Floyd Mayweather in a ring. Do you think he'd last anywhere near 30 minutes in a cage if it went over there? Floyd Mayweather is very clever. Conor McGregor came over to the boxing ring to do this. That's where the money was going to be made. So I've got nothing but respect for Conor McGregor. He has earned so many boxing fans. He's got so many fans now over in this boxing world. And there's nothing we can do. Forget about hating him. Forget about laughing. Let's just give the man credit. The man showed so much balls, and now he walks away with unbelievable money. Absolutely unbelievable money. And you know what? In some ways, I think he earned it. He showed his balls. He didn't look for a way out, and he wasn't stopped. He wasn't like he got, he wasn't knocked down or knocked out. He said he was tired. I think the referee jumped in. Some people saying a tiny bit early. I'm not even sure. I think it was a decent stoppage. I didn't really have any qualms about it. It was only going one way, when Conor started gassing. But let's not get carried away as well. This is not a brilliant win. Some people saying, oh my God, Mayweather's 50-0. Oh my God, he's the best. This win was expected. There's nothing about this whole fight that went surprising, apart from the fact that Conor McGregor won about 3 or 4 rounds. Some people even said 2 rounds. I think that's a bit harsh. I think it was at least 3, but I gave it 4. So for me, after 9 rounds, which were scored, because you don't score the 10th round because that was where the knockout came. For me, I had it 5-4 to Floyd going into that 10th round, and then of course he got the knockout. So the only thing that wasn't supposed to happen was the fact that Conor McGregor was able to out-punch and outland Floyd and outwork Floyd in those early parts of the fight. That was the only shocking thing. This was not a shocking win. This is not a huge win. This is not a big win. This is what was supposed to have happened. So let's not get too carried away, and let's give Conor McGregor a little bit of credit for coming over to the boxing ring to do it in one of the best ever's actual home of boxing. He didn't want it in the cage. He came over to our field of combat sports to take on one of the best ever. I've got nothing but respect for Conor McGregor. What a man.
What can I say? First of all, in my opinion, like I said to everyone, it's a joke of a fight. MMA versus boxing. You know what made me laugh at the start of the fight? When Mayweather came in, he had his professional record, 49-0. You look, it came to McGregor, professional debut. That says it all there. A boxer versus an MMA fight. Now you look at the start, yeah. I saw a lot of fans, yeah. They're like, yeah, McGregor's gonna knock him out. Let me tell you something, right? I've seen a lot of Mayweather fights, yeah, and the person that hit him the hardest, yeah, and hurt him was Shane Mosley. Mosley hit him with the right hand, and Mayweather was clinching again. So obviously he can get the rounds sorted. Miguel Cotto gave him a good fight. He beat Miguel Cotto in style. Maidana hit him with a heart. And when you see McGregor hitting him, it's like it's not even hitting him. It's like a little tap. First 3 rounds, yeah, you're right. I had McGregor first 2 rounds, and then I get after Mayweather completely. And Mayweather said, I thought, in my opinion, like I said it last week on the show, right? I go, the last time I saw Mayweather knockout was Victor Ortiz, and that was back in 2011. But, and I even said last week, I go, yeah, this fight's gonna go to points because obviously Mayweather's from 2011 onwards, after the Victor Ortiz fight, it's been points against all the stars, and this time he's knocked him out. Obviously now everyone, even like the Showtime commentator said to McGregor, "Are you gonna have a boxing match?" In my opinion, I think he should not fight. I don't think he should be boxing anymore. I think he should stick to UFC now. If he does come back to boxing, there's always the Paulie Malignaggi fight. If Paulie wants to come out of retirement and fight him, but I reckon, like I said, the McGregor fight, in my opinion, I wasn't that interested in it, and I don't think the fight was at that standard. Everyone knew. I said to everyone, I got McGregor. I said Mayweather will win this no matter what. Whatever you do, Mayweather will win this fight. And what happened at the end? The results.
Yeah, I think that, the one thing I kind of struggle with is the fact that we all knew Mayweather was going to win. I had money on Mayweather to win. Mayweather won me some money on winning. I actually had him to win by knockout as well. That happened. I predicted that on last week's show. But what I will say is, I did not expect, even as you say there, I gave him 4 rounds, you gave him 2, that's fine. But even to give him 1 round, even to say that Conor McGregor, 0-0, making his debut, can win 1 round, let alone 2, let alone 3, let alone 4, against Mayweather, it is shocking. So for me, I think we've got to give the man credit, and it was just shocking. I actually take back my words saying it was a circus, because it turned out to be more competitive than Floyd's recent performances. He took on like the likes of Andre Berto, who I think's past it. He basically shut Andre Berto out the fight. He didn't do that with Conor McGregor. Fair enough, he got the knockout, but it was competitive, especially in the early part of the fight. It was, it was very competitive. It was way too competitive. It was actually worrying. I was on the phone at the time. It was like 1 minute 30 into the first round, so half of the first round had gone. And I was on the phone to someone, and I was saying, wow, he's won the first 90 seconds of this fight. This can't carry on. Surely he can't win the first round. All of a sudden, he wins the first round, then he wins the second round. And I'm on the phone again. I'm like, what is going on? You know what I mean? Like, it was shocking stuff. And like I say, we all knew that Mayweather was going to win. It would have been the biggest upset in boxing history. We all wanted him to win. But let's not take the mick too much. Let's be honest here. We know that, let's be modest here as well. We know that Conor, he's the man at UFC. He's not the man at boxing. We got to give him respect for coming over here. Floyd wouldn't go over there. I understand the money over here is good. Good luck to him if he wants to stay over here, he wants to take on Paulie Malignaggi or whatever. The money will probably be bigger for him in boxing than it will in UFC. But you got all these other UFC fighters laughing at him, all these other boxing fans laughing at him, getting at the MMA fans. I don't know, I see it differently. I think we got to give the man credit. I'm glad he didn't win, but he came and gave it his all. And he's got again, he's got the heart of a lion. He's a tough game Irishman, like a lot of Irishmen are, by the way. So, he showed those balls, and like I say, he deserves a lot of credit, and he's definitely got my respect, and he's definitely got himself a new fan in me for sure after Saturday night. But that is it. I think we should leave it there because we can talk about it probably all day. I've said my piece. I've done my little rant there. That's really it for part one. We've done all the reviewing. We've done all the rambling about last week. It's just been reviewing, really. It's gone on for the better part of half an hour. Just before we close out part one, there's one last thing to do, and that, of course, is to welcome guest number one. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a super-middleweight contender under Floyd Mayweather's money team banner. It's, of course, Mr. J-Leon Love. J-Leon, welcome back to the show.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's always my pleasure, my friend. So first things first, J-Leon, last week on Tuesday, I was watching the Jamel Herring and Ladarius Miller fight, and I heard a voice on commentary, and I thought, hang on a minute, that's your voice. How was it commentating that event? And do you like commentating on fights? It was weird hearing you there.
You know what, man? It was definitely a great opportunity. I'm not really the talkative type too much, honestly, for the people that know me. But, it was a great opportunity, and I was able to commentate. And, I can't really give myself an assessment, but, I was just trying to do my best, and there was some really good fights, so it made it kind of easy.
Excellent. Well, I'll assess it for you. You did really well. It was good listening to you. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you were actually supposed to be fighting originally. You were going to be fighting on last week's, or one of the cards on last week's, last week. That's right?
Right, correct. We were supposed to fight either the 26th or the 22nd. It didn't really matter. But we just couldn't work out anything with a significant opponent, a real... so the September 8th is now my date.
Yeah, that's fine. So obviously that's next Friday on the Benavidez versus Gavril undercard. Now you're taking on a man by the name of Abraham Han. I know that Abraham Han has got a bit of an MMA background before boxing. His boxing record is obviously 26 wins and 3 losses. Now, when you actually analyse those losses, one, he lost to Glenn Tapia. That was 4 years ago. The other 2 losses have both been split decisions, so very close. And one of those losses also was against former world champion Sergio Mora, in which he actually dropped Mora late in that fight. This is a dangerous fight, looking at it on paper. What do you know about your opponent?
Man, I remember we used to call him Abe, but we never remember Abraham Han from the amateurs. He's always been a solid fighter. Comes from a combat sport background, regardless, him and his sister. So, I don't look past anybody. I did that before, and I have a blemish on my record for that. So we're training as if this is a championship fight right here in itself. You got to hold respect for every guy that prepares for a fight and gets in that square circle. So right now, man, we don't look past him. We know he's going to come with his A game, and we're going to come with ours.
And we actually had David Benavidez on our show last week. Now, even though you're fighting on the undercard, I bet you've got your eyes on the winner of that fight, surely, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, whether, any opportunity at the title, IBF, James DeGale, the winner of the WBC Super-Middleweight belt, the winner of Gavril or Benavidez, it don't really matter to me. Just want the opportunity to fight for one of those titles and win one of those titles.
And for a long time, and I remember talking to you a year ago, and I asked you about this fight, and we thought it was going to be made, but it just seems like maybe it's never going to happen. What is the score with the Rocky Fielding fight? Is that fight a fight that's never going to happen now?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm not really worried about that. I got other things on my plate as far as fighters and who I could fight. If the Rocky Fielding opportunity comes up, then it does. Here it is. I have a fight on September 8th. I'm not really worried about Rocky Fielding. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't.
No, fair enough. And obviously, Chris Eubank Jr., he's moved up to super-middleweight now. Not only that, but he was also out in Vegas for the Mayweather-McGregor fight. Last time you were on the show, I remember talking to you about his father. You kind of put his father on blast a little bit. Are you guys cool now?
You know what? Honestly, I spoke with his father yesterday. I matured a lot, man. You know what I mean? You grew up a lot, and I saw his father, and he actually showed up to my charity event, one of my charity events, and this past Sunday, and he didn't have to come. I don't know if he knew I was a part of the charity event or whatever the case, but he showed up, and that showed me right there. It gave me a lot of respect for him. You know what I mean? Regardless if he showed up, he just showed up for the event, which was great, and it was for a great cause. So I thanked him yesterday for that. I told him, I know we got our differences, but I really appreciate you, for showing up. So, and he did. And, I never really had nothing against the kid, Eubank Jr. It was more of his father. But outside of that, man, that's years ago. I'm over things from years ago, man. And, I respect them all as men. Son is a great fighter, champion. Obviously the father was a great champion as well. So, I want to clear the record and say, I want to take back the things that I did say about them. I'm an adult. I got to hold myself accountable for my words and the things that come out of my mouth. Initially, never really harmed me or did anything. Words are words, and, you got to be able to get over that. So I am a man, and, I apologize for bad mouthing him. But outside of that, he showed up to the event, which was really dope, man. It is what it is, man. It's over and done with. I can't sit here and say anything bad about him.
No, that's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. I didn't, I wasn't aware of any kind of charity event. Do you want to say a few words on that at all for the listeners?
Oh, yeah, sure. We did a charity event this Sunday, me, Boom Cups, and McKenzie Motors here in Vegas. We all teamed up, man, and did a charity event for, the Candlelighters Childhood Cancer Foundation in Nevada. We met a lot of kids, that, and so it's unbelievable. They're the real fighters, and we get in there fighting, but these kids are 5, battling cancer, and some are just sent home and prepared, these parents have to prepare, to lose their child, man. So we threw up a great event Sunday after the fight. Floyd showed up, Chris Brown showed up, Trey Songz, Fabulous, so many other great NBA players and athletes and entertainers, man. They showed up in support, and it was so dope, man. We had over 3,000 people there, and it was all for a great cause, man. And, that's what shows right there. We sometimes we wake up with bad attitudes because things don't go our way. And, we're mad at certain people in the world, or we dislike certain people in the world. But I met these children that really could be so upset about so much because they really don't have a chance, man. But they're the happiest children I've ever met. All they do is smile and just want to be hugged and loved, man. And, hey, that right there changed me, man. And, look, I just say, we got to do something. So, we partnered with some great people, man, and we made the event happen, and it was fantastic, man. I want to keep going from here on out, just doing charity events for these children, giving them something, maybe some inspiration to keep fighting, man. Like I said, these kids are 5. I met a kid, Dee, who was only 5 years old, man, sent home, basically told there's nothing they can do. But this kid was running around on the court shooting a basketball, just running around having fun, and smiling, and laughing. And you would have never known he was fighting cancer and losing the battle.
Yeah, it's tragic, man. But well done to yourself and all those involved. And may God bless these children, who like you said haven't got a chance. So it's a crazy old world, but no, it's great to hear that you're doing your bit. That's incredibly nice of you.
Yeah.
Right, moving on now to to a bit more boxing. What did you make of the Floyd versus Conor fight anyway, Jay Leon? I thought that Conor did pretty well. Let's be honest. He did better than many people thought.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, he definitely did. I didn't think he had really, from coming up leading to the fight. Obviously, this guy who claims he can do this and that is going to do this and that. I never really thought about it, but he definitely showed a lot of people that he has a lot more skill than what you think he has, and he's a really good stand-up fighter as far as the MMA goes. Most of his knockouts are by stand-up. But outside of that, you in with the best of the best. And he done a very good job. It was very entertaining. Obviously, we see Floyd did what he wanted to do. He was able to take rounds off, and he had a game plan to just drown him out, And it went, but it was very entertaining, man. And you got to give him, an A+ for the effort, brother.
Yeah, I totally agree. Another fight as well. I wasn't actually going to ask you this, but then it's just kind of come to mind while we've been on the phone. Badou Jack, what a performance! It was, we were all interested. Everybody was saying that fight. Nathan Cleverly, Badou Jack. That fight was the most competitive fight going in on the whole card. That was the fight that drew the hardcore boxing fans in, if you like, and it was just completely one-sided. Unbelievable performance from Badou.
Yeah, man, Badou Jack has been doing doing so good, man. Now a 2-time division champion, improving every fight, man. Every fight he's giving a good show. I think he has wins over Lucian Bute and James DeGale, to be honest. And now he's WBA light heavyweight champion of the world. So, listen, Badou, that just goes to show you, man, you can be counted out, but then you can always come back, man. You can never count these guys out, So Badou has done some amazing things in the sport. Now, I'm happy for him. And he put on a great performance. It definitely was one-sided. It definitely was. Shout out to Nathan Cleverly. He's a champion as well. He came all the way over here, put out a good shot. And, you can take nothing away from him, you know what I mean? But, hey, Badou definitely stole the show with that.
Yeah, completely. You're completely right, to be honest. A really good performance, really impressive. The last real question I'm going to throw at you now, Jay Leon, we're asking everybody this, to be completely honest. Everybody we've been speaking to in the last few months, the listeners are probably getting sick of me asking it, but I've got to get your opinion. Canelo versus Triple G. Everybody's split. How do you see it?
I like Canelo. I've always liked Canelo. Triple G's last performances haven't been the greatest. We don't take nothing away from him. This guy is very dangerous. Obviously, he's coming into the sport and just shooking it up, man. These devastating knockouts, known to be this monster knockout artist. But I think Canelo, people are really kind of sleeping on him. He's so talented. And there's only one loss is to the great Floyd Mayweather Jr., you know what I mean? So I think Canelo is going to do what most people don't think he can do. And he's going to beat and possibly stop Triple G. We've seen Ward do it against a Kovalev, so it's always possible. So I'm just going with Canelo. I like his style. He's a younger fighter. He lets his hands go, and he can punch. You know what I mean? He can punch as well. So I'm looking forward to a great fight. But, you definitely ask for my choice. I would say Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah, as I say, everybody's split, but no one's quite sure. It's that much of a 50-50. Just before I let you go, Jay Leon, anything you want to say at all? Anything at all, just before we let you go to any listeners that may be listening?
No, man, I just appreciate everybody, man. From the fans across the water in the UK. I get a lot of love from you guys, man. I get a lot of hate, too, but it's all good. I love you, though. You know what I mean? And, I'm not going to lie, some of the best fans in the world, you know what I mean? That's one thing I can say. You guys support your athletes and, you guys support the sport, the sport of boxing, which is great, man. You know what I mean? You guys are putting on some great shows over there. You guys are producing some great fighters over there. And I just want to say, it's all love, man, from Jay Leon Love. When I meet you guys and see you in person, it's definitely your great feelings and get some love from across the water. So shout out to you. Shout out to you as well, bro. You always been called and gave me great interviews, and I appreciate you. So, just all love to everybody, man. To the States here, shout out to all the fighters coming up and all the fans of boxing here. So I appreciate you, and there's all love.
All love, my friend, all love. Okay, listen, Jay Leon, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Best of luck for next Friday, and we'll catch up sometime afterwards, I'm sure.
All right, we will.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, the preview part, there's not too much to preview, but before we get on to that, we're going to go to Ayaz, and there's not too much news really either. We're going to go over to Ayaz now with the latest boxing news. Ayaz.
Right. Obviously, there's only one news, and that is Nathan Cleverly has retired from boxing.
Yes, Nathan Cleverly obviously went into that fight against Badou Jack last Saturday night in that big card in Las Vegas, the big pay-per-view card. Yeah, as we said, it wasn't a good performance from him. He looked a bit shot. He's probably calling it a day at the right time for me. He's definitely got a lot of balls again to go in there against Kovalev like he did. Those fights with Tony Bellew, even though the second one wasn't all that great. The war he had with Fonfara, he's kind of had like almost 2 careers in one. He's kind of had like a second wind during his career. After being world champion for the first time and then of course the second time. But no, he's done Britain proud, he's done Wales proud more importantly, and he's been a great ambassador for the sport. He really has. He's a 2-time world champion, he's been a good world champion, and you can't really say he avoided anybody. He took on Bramer, he wanted that fight for a long time, he went over to Germany and got the win. He definitely gets my respect, and we wish him all the very best in his retirement, of course. That's it for the news, Ayaz.
Yeah, that's it for the news.
Okay, my man. Right, moving over now to the preview. There's not too much to go on. We're going to start with a card that's happening this Friday, so tomorrow at York Hall, Bethnal Green, London. It is, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's one of those next-gen Eddie Hearn shows. I'm not too sure if it's not a next-gen show. I'm looking at the lineup, and it looks like it probably is. But this is what is penciled in at the moment. Joe Caldina, 3-0, is in a 6-rounder against Jamie Spate, 15-12. Obviously, Joe Caldina, Olympian and all that, so it should be good to see him, another Welshman. Also on the bill, Conor Benn, 7-0. He's penciled to take on Kane Baker. I don't know who he is, but his record's 4-0. That's a 6-rounder as well. A few 6-rounders on this bill. Felix Cash is on the bill as well. His record 5-0. He takes on Fernando Heredia, 3-1. Jake Ball, friend of the show, he's in a 10-rounder against Joe Sheriff. Joe Sheriff 11-0, Jake Ball 9-1. Also on the bill, making his second pro outing, Joshua Buatsi, the Olympic bronze medalist. He's in a 6-rounder. His opponent yet to be announced. It was announced, but then I think that fight fell through, and now I think they're searching for a last-minute opponent. Lawrence Okoli's on the bill as well. His record at the moment 4-0, 4 knockouts as well. A very exciting fighter to watch. He's in a 6-rounder against a yet to be announced opponent. Also on the bill, Ted Cheeseman. His record 9-0. He's in a 10-rounder. His opponent yet to be announced also. And Danny Dignam, 3-0. He's in a 4-rounder against Lewis Van Poach, whose record's 5-49 with 1 draw. Should be a decently comfortable win there for Danny Dignam. That's it for York Hall, Bethnal Green and Eddie Hearn's card. That fight will be shown on Sky as well this weekend, obviously Friday. And yeah, that's it from England, if I'm not mistaken. I think maybe that's certainly it for Friday. Moving over now to Saturday. One fight to mention over in Mexico that's gone under the radar. Hear this one, Ayaz. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the main event. There's a man called Carlos Ocampo, 21-0. He takes on Konstantin Ponomarev, who's got a record of 32-0. So both men combined record there, 53-0. Somebody's O's got to go, so that should be an exciting 12-rounder there over in Chihuahua, Mexico. But the main kind of attraction to this bill for us anyway, Antonio Margarito, 40-8. He's way past it. He's taking on Carson Jones, 40-11 with 3 draws. That one has gone hugely under the radar. We know the Carson Jones, he comes over here to Britain and gives our prospects a good fight all the time. So all credit to Carson Jones. We're going to be behind him as as he visits Margarito's hometown of Mexico. So all the very best to Carson Jones. That should be a fun fight, hopefully anyway. And moving over now to the last bill to mention this week. It is actually happening in the UK. This one's on Saturday at the Doncaster Dome in Doncaster, Yorkshire. One fight to mention really on this bill, I think. There's a couple fights. Jordan Gill's on the bill. His record's 16-0. He's in a well, it doesn't say how many rounds, but he's going to be fighting. His opponent yet to be announced. Also, Curtis Woodhouse returns to the ring, if I'm not mistaken, from about 3 years out of the game. His record 22-7. His opponent yet to... In fact, it has been announced. He's taking on a guy, I can't remember his name, but he recently just went the distance with John Wayne Hibbert. So yeah, a good decent fight to come back to after 3 years out there for Curtis Woodhouse. Also on that bill, Maxie Hughes 16-3 with 2 draws, fights for the vacant Central Area Super Featherweight title against Ryan Moorhead, who's got a record of 9-1. This one is a Steffi Ball Promotions card there at the Doncaster Dome in Doncaster, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. And that's how we're going to close out. We've mentioned a huge bill last weekend in Las Vegas. We're now mentioning and finishing on, more importantly, with a small hall show in the UK. That's how we do business. It's now time to welcome, before we wrap up this show, it's been a fun show, it's now time to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former footballer turned boxer and former English title challenger, more importantly, Mr. Leon McKenzie. Leon, welcome to the show. It's been a long time, mate.
I know, so apologies, just busy life, and so apologies for not coming on sooner, but yeah, welcome.
No worries, man. No worries. My fault as well. Now, staggeringly, we spoke to you last on the 18th episode of our podcast. It's been 82 weeks since we last spoke to you on the show. It was just after the Kelvin Young fight. After that fight, of course, you took on Jermaine Smile for the English title, lost a split decision over 10 rounds. Since that, you haven't fought, but Jermaine, of course, has been in 2 good but close fights against Darryl Williams, the most recent one being in July, in which me and you were sitting next to each other for that fight. I know that you wanted the rematch with Jermaine, but seeing as he's lost the 2 fights to Darryl Williams, have your sights shifted towards Williams, seeing as he's the title holder?
Well, I know Darryl. Known Darryl for years, even when I was first turning over myself, and the kid's done really well. That's the reality. I didn't know he'd even get this far when we were sort of sparring together and helping each other out early days. And I actually sparred him just before the Smile fight, because we thought he'd have sort of like a similar kind of style to Smile, but he obviously, Smile didn't fight like that at all, so he changed it up a bit. But he's the English champion now, and I can only focus on what's ahead for me, and obviously what's ahead for me is the Southern Area title now, and once I get that out of the way, then we will see what's going on. If he's still the champion, then of course, I'm sure we can put all gym affairs aside, and we'll make a great fight, I'm sure. But again, I can't look forward to him just yet, because I've still got a very dangerous opponent in my eyes. So ahead. So just to give Darryl credit, we're cool. We speak. There's no animosity. Although he gets a little bit excited at times with opponents and stuff. There's certain things that he wouldn't be doing with me. So I think we have that mutual respect. Well, I've got respect for him, but at the same time, he is English champion and deservedly and rightly so. So it is what it is. When I get this fight out of the way, then we'll see. He sort of said he'll fight. I assume his words were he'll fight anyone. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, I've been offered another big fight, which my manager put to me, which I'll have a little think about that, whether it's worth going down that line as well. So we're just to see whatever's right for myself. 40 next year, do you know what I mean? So, it don't get any easier. So we just have to see how I do after this particular fight, how I feel, But the way I'm feeling, I'm in superb shape, and I'm feeling in a very spiteful mood.
Yeah, very good to hear, man. Very good to hear. So, as you said there, you're finally fighting next week. You had a few pullouts coming up to this fight, obviously. How many opponents pulled out in you, Leon, and why?
Alan Higgins was the opponent that was scheduled to fight me. He pulled out for his own personal reasons. You never know what goes on behind closed doors with a fighter or anyone in life. So it can never be too judgmental to why someone's actually pulling out. I don't think it was because he didn't want to fight me, but his mind is just not in a place where he feels that to fight me. His mind obviously would need to be right, and that's fair enough. And his mind wasn't right, and he's got a few things going on right now. So I hope he sorts himself out and gets back in the ring for his own journey. But at the same time, he's gone now, and I have to look at who stepped in. It was a little bit unsettling, but Trelorendo stepped in, and he's the one that's in my way.
And I believe that our podcast actually had something to do with these pullouts, because as we all know, Anthony Fowler came on here telling everybody you gave him hell in sparring. How was that experience for you, Leon, anyway? And is he the best guy you've sparred as well?
No, I think everyone has different styles. I never really watch too much of how someone spars. There's fighters that spar terribly, there's fighters that spar brilliantly. Sometimes I spar brilliantly, sometimes I spar rubbish. I never really looked too much into sparring. There's so many fighters out there that get so hyped on this. Oh yeah, I've done really good in sparring today, and blah blah blah. But that's not where it's at. It's not real. You get as close as you can to fighting, and you work on you need to work on. I try and work on what I need to work on to become sharper and fitness wise and everything else. But I don't get too tied up in now, I put him down or, I hurt him and all that. It's nonsense. For me, sparred with many, many champions. Anthony Fowler, really tough kid, to the point of the respect is there. He's a light middle in himself anyway, and he's definitely, rocking and rolling with me. So all respect to him. I like him as a kid anyway. And I respect what they're trying to achieve, and I never knock anyone for trying to achieve their dreams and actually having a go and trying to fulfill that. Most of us that do jump in the ring are trying to fulfill something that no matter what level you get to, when you step in that ring, you step in that ring. So all credit goes out to them, but you'll get the world champion gym fighters, and you'll get the serious people who really do put on a show. But I'd say I've sparred with many. I can never put someone in a category to say oh my God, he's the best. But I've sparred with Billy Joe Saunders, James DeGale, Chris Eubank, Anthony Yardy. There's so many. They offer so much in so many ways, and I've gained so much experience from all of them. And learnt so much with the old man that I am. Do you know what I mean? But I think if you asked any of them, from a sparring point of view, or just from a fighting point of view, I'm sure they'd have that respect for me, regardless of the career I had before. I'm sure everyone now really understands that it's just a little bit different with me. It's not that straightforward, as in just a footballer. No. I can fight. It's as simple as that. It's in my DNA, and I enjoy fighting. And when it's time, I know when it's time. I'm 40 next year. That's the reality. So there's lots I have to think about, and the future and everything else. And the reality is for me is how far I can try and keep pushing and go and get a couple of belts along the way, so be it. But I'm not, whether I leave the game with or without, I'm not going to beat myself up too much, because it's all about the trying for me to fulfill something that you always wanted to do in life.
So let's get through the next couple of questions here, Leon. Let's get on to the reason you're here. Next Saturday, you're going to be taking on Chelo Render at York Hall for the vacant Southern Area title, as you mentioned. Now, before we talk about the fight itself, you just lost out by the smallest of margins of winning a piece of silverware last time out, as we touched on. But this is your very next fight from then, and again, you've got another opportunity to win a piece of silverware, albeit slightly down a level. But how excited are you to be able to take home a belt finally?
I've took home a belt. Obviously, I won an international masters belt, but I guess in boxing, people don't really call that a belt. But for me, it was a personal achievement winning that in 2014 because it's been a up and down journey, shall we say? So to win something to win my first professional belt, that was something for me. It may not be to anyone else, but for me and my family, it was something. So I always say that I have won something. But this is just now the levels that we always knew that we could be fighting at, and we take each fight as it comes, and we're fighting for very good titles now. And the Southern Area title is is there. It's something I'd like to win, and then we'll see what happens after that. If I can, it was such a close fight with the small fight. If I'm honest, it wasn't really my best performance, but not taking anything away from Jermaine, he was a little bit more awkward than I expected, and I missed out on a marginal split decision really, and probably could have gone the other way if there was other judges that weren't sort of scoring fake knockdowns. Do you know what I mean? So it's just one of them things. But I'm never bitter from certain things that happen. You just have to take what you can and build and go again. And it's all about building the foundations and going again. So yeah, it'd be fantastic to win this Southern Area belt.
Good, man. Good to hear you say that. So, of course, your opponent, as we said, Chelo Render, on paper, you'd have to say he's the more experienced man. Obviously, as a pro, you've only had 10 fights. He's had 42. Not only that, but he's mixed it with some of the guys like Jack Arnfield, Paul Smith, Martin Murray, Tom Doran, Alan Higgins, who you were supposed to originally fight, albeit he's lost to most of those guys mentioned, but he's certainly been around the block. What do you know about him, Leon?
I keep hearing he's a puncher. He's experienced, as you just said, over 40 odd fights. So he brings that to the table. As for myself, he hasn't fought anyone like me in respect of what I'm going to bring. So, and I'm not sure if he's actually boxed an out-and-out southpaw in his whole career. So again, there's a few things that we're gonna see. And as much as everyone says he's a puncher, well, I'm pretty heavy-handed myself, so it might not look that way on paper, but I can assure you everyone that has been in the ring with me will feel me. So I respect every opponent, and I respect Chelo Render, but the mood I'm in, the way I feel, I'm just focusing on myself. I don't really focus on what's in front of me too much. Yeah, as long as I focus on myself, everything takes care of itself. It's as simple as that.
Of course. And as I mentioned also, the fight being at York Hall, the home of British boxing, a small but atmospheric venue, and also it's your home ground in many ways. You happy to be fighting there again?
Yeah, it's like kind of my home now, isn't it? I've had many fights there now. It's nothing new to me. And the atmosphere is great. I have all my family there, my two oldest children there, and we're ready. I'm ready. Everything's great. I'm pretty much on weight now, so we're good.
Wicked, man, wicked. And the last couple questions are just about a few other different things going on in and around your division. I wanted to get your take on the World Boxing Super Series tournament. Arguably, it's got the top 4 British super middleweights participating in it at the moment. DeGale, Groves, Cox and Eubank Jr. Ultimately, one man will be left standing at the very end of the tournament. Who do you believe is the best fighter out of those 4? Seeing as you sparred a couple.
I'm not sure if DeGale is he.
Sorry, DeGale's not.
I'm not sure.
Sorry, he's not.
He's not
sorry,
in
my mistake.
No.
It's
Chris Eubank,
Callum.
isn't it?
Yeah, Chris Eubank Jr., Callum Smith, Jamie Cox, and George Groves. My apologies.
Yeah. I would have to say, out of those four, ideally probably Callum Smith for me, but can't write George Groves off just yet, to be honest, because he's like, he's a handful on his day. So I think George slightly will probably just outbox Cox. So I think Groves will probably win that fight. The Eubanks has got a tougher opponent, but I think Eubanks wins that. But I keep hearing, I don't know much about Eubanks' opponent, but I really rate Eubanks to the point of like he's just super fit. He's just there all the time. Do you know what I mean? So I'm interested to see how he does more than anyone at that kind of level now. He's at the levels now where he obviously needs to be tested and hit on the chin and so forth. So I'm interested to see how Eubanks does mixing it with those type of fighters. But I would probably say, I would have to go for probably Callum out of those particular four, just being the potential of what I've seen. But he's been out of the ring for a little while, so who knows?
Yeah, it is. I think he might be the favourite to win the tournament, Callum. But as you said,
maybe so. But okay, he's been. Sometimes when you have to ring a bit, you never know. You never know what one's going to, what person's going to turn up. So timing and everything else, and precision. So we'll see.
And certainly, as you said as well, Chris Eubank Jr. seeing him at that level, I think everybody's waiting for that.
Yeah, you can't write Junior off because he's just got that sting in his punches, and he's very he throws a lot when he sort of goes a lot. He traps you, and it's hard to sort of get out of the way. But then you've seen Billy Joe Saunders at the time when he did fight him, a world class boxer. Eubanks may always have trouble with, so we're yet to see if he's matured with that as well.
And also a huge fight the week after your one over in the States, of course, Triple G against Canelo. I'm asking everybody about this. What's your take on that one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, GG is very, very unorthodox and heavy-handed. The only thing with GGG, I feel like he probably takes too many shots, and I feel like Canelo is the one to, if he sticks to what the kind of type of boxer he is, I feel like Canelo can maybe pull this off just with the variety of punches, the movement, and just being sharp, because GG does take a lot of punches. Although he's very comes forward and has that total pressure kind of style. I just think Canelo's just a little bit more smart. So I'm gonna go Canelo, but then I'm just not sure because the way that guy punches, you just can never write that off. Do you know what I mean? So you just don't know.
Yeah,
I'll go Canelo.
Yeah, I think nobody's quite sure because it is.
Well, I don't know because obviously he's a little bit smaller. I mean, Canelo obviously is slightly smaller, but I don't know. I just don't. I think he could pull it off, but for me to sort of be 100% with it, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is 100% sure. We actually had Jay Leon Love on the show just earlier. He's on this same show with you, and he as well went with Canelo. So a few people going with Canelo this week. And finally, Leon, just before we let you go, if you've got one, I know that you're not really a trash talk or anything, but if you've got any kind of prediction for your fight, how do you see yourself winning that Southern Area strap next week?
Just winning. No matter what it takes, I'll do what it takes to win. I never really called out predictions and what I'm going to do, whatever it is, but I just like to win, and I'll do that any means necessary.
Yeah, listen, that is the most important thing. Just before we let you go, anything you want to tell our listeners at all? Anything you want to say to anybody at all?
Yeah, listen, I just thank you for all those that have supported me and the whole journey from switching over from football to boxing. It's always takes a little bit longer to get that respect, but thank you to everyone that does support me, and also, anyone out there in life who's just really wanting to pursue dreams and push on and do what you want to do to make yourself happy. And I believe that you can do anything you want to do. And the reality is, again, I'm 40 next year, and I don't think really anyone really believed even me to be really fighting for titles, if I'm perfectly honest, when I first started. So, to be doing what I'm doing and be rocking and rolling with these strong, hungry 25, 26-year-olds, it's a big testament to my story anyway. So I really believe that anyone can do anything they want to do, and I urge you to go and do it.
Absolutely positive stuff, inspiring stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, Leon, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, mate. Best of luck for next weekend. We'll of course be rooting for you, and hopefully we can catch up after the win.
I'm the top man, mate, 100%.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 98 of the BoxHard Podcast. It's been a good one. American August has now come to a close. We do things differently on this show, if you haven't noticed. Unlike other British podcasts, we reach out across the oceans to connect with top boxers worldwide. We don't just focus on London-based boxers. We like to branch out a bit, and also some other podcasts go out to press conferences. They record interviews and use the audio in their podcast. That is the sole reason we've never had the likes of Anthony Joshua on our show. Anthony Joshua, for example, just purely using him for an example, he does not do podcasts unless it's Sky Sports' very own podcast. And we're firm believers that a podcast should simply be created using the tools of a computer. That's what we do. We don't go out with dictaphones and cut corners. We do things the old-fashioned way. A big thank you to our two guests on this week's show, both super middleweights, both good people, and both called Leon. J. Leon Love, thank you for coming on. Leon McKenzie, thank you for coming on also. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to our listeners. They make this show what it is. It's the same every time. Without you guys, we'd be nothing. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. We hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast, and we'll see you next time.